This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so my name is Jonathan Hawley. I'm with Educational Message Services and PreventionPays Text, and we are going to be talking about the administrative side of the service and what that means to administrators, and what administrators can do with the application. It involves things that are designated by virtue of your login profile. So when you log in, you have complete access to all features, tabs, and functionality, whereas a frontline staff would have limited access. They would not be able to see things that the administrator sees, like being able to edit a staff profile or being able to create a new profile, or doing any of the editing features, like adding auto responses, turning those on or off, creating canned phrases. Now, a staff could be given permission to create canned phrases, but they're only given permission to create canned phrases for themselves. They would have to be given additional permission to be able to create canned phrases for others. So administrators have access to all of those data markers as well. So you don't have to submit a request to us to add a data marker, but your staff may have to submit a request to an administrator to add a data marker. So we'll go over those things and more during this session. We'll look at the FTP. The FTP has a lot of documents in it. It's got, starting with the API files, in case you're interested. That's the document that is guiding the integration process that we're undergoing with all of the CRMs, not just the CRMs that are in the 211 sector, but custom tailored CRMs, privately used CRMs. We have integrations now across a lot of different types of services, and not just CRMs, but also telephony services that are cloud-based. So, and what guides those points of integration is what we've developed in this document here. And some are slightly different. We have a streamlined connection where you can just pass text through us, and that's a separate technical document. However, this one goes deeper. It has several points of integration, including surveys, 211 on demand. If you are interested in seeking more information about that, wonderful bit of technology support, being able to grab those resources out of your CRM in an automated way really makes it all just a completely seamless experience. So the 211 on demand, think of it as like a utility add-on. In addition to our live support, we have this express way to get information, and it utilizes an integrated solution with our CRM. Surveys. Now we pass the data back to the CRM, so that's another important point of integration, is being able to get that data over to your CRM, so that if you're doing follow-up support or you're doing any kind of quality assurance, that all that data resides in one location. So a lot of things that I think administrators benefit from reading over this, because the first paragraph or two in each of the points is written in lay terms. Then we go into the technical. So you can get an idea of what the integration will do just by simply reading the first couple paragraphs of that, each one of the points of integration. And then, as an administrator, you can then go to your CRM and say, hey, we know that this is available, or we know that this is possible. We want to, complete this. We want to make sure that we're benefiting from this. And you can, be you can have a role in making sure that those points of integration occur. We feel like we want to be completely transparent. That's why we're putting all of this information out on the FTP, anyone can access this website. This isn't a privileged access URL. This is for anybody to go to. We want others to connect to us, and we're encouraging it. And by doing that, we're revealing all of our technical documents and associated information. We also provide a lot of information about other programs that are tangential to INR. So if you're, as an administrator, if you're interested in learning more about how you can use text in other ways, check out program examples, because that gives you highlights of ways that you can offer texting that are tangential to INR. Now, they might dovetail into your INR, which is okay, fine. But as far as like out of the box, a project, INR doesn't necessarily, commit to smoke-free homes texting, right? That might be something that you would get funding for and then have a text message component to it. The same being true with the tax help. We work with some 211s that are like, that's like one of the big things that's the engine that keeps them all going. And then others, not so much. They don't even have, much tax support at all during tax season. So, having a look at this, what it might do is it might give you an idea of how you might use it in your neck of the woods, how you might use texting in a slightly different way. But this is the catalyst for that idea. Another thing to have a look at in this 211 folder, if you're interested, is the blog posts. There are several blog posts related to 211 and texting. So when you have a moment in time, you can go and peruse all of these wonderful stories over the years about texting in 211. And there's also PowerPoint presentations. These often coincided with a webinar. And we also have past webinars, which is wonderful. So you can check out and watch past webinar recordings right here. And we update this frequently. So we'll be adding a couple more slots here because we've had a few more webinars related to the opioid project. Wonderful, exciting project. And then a couple other things too. So yeah, this will be updated very soon. But that gives you a smattering of wonderful things that you can have a look at, and terrific things that talk about texting in the 211 light. And then the guides and startups. Now, for the frontline responder, they go to this one, PreventionPays Text Guide, which is just the nuts and bolts, logging in, responding to the queue, opening a case, having a conversation. When you're done, closing the case, sending a referral to a caller. Just real basic, stuff. Now, it also has some administrative features and functionality. It also has some information on additional tabs, like the group texting tab, which is, one of the most interesting and compelling tabs for 211s moving forward. It's kind of the jumping off point for relational INR. What's good for you here might also be good for you there. So we're going to pull some phone numbers. We're going to upload those phone numbers and send them a text about that we've got texting, or send them a text about a new program that's being offered through food support, or food banks, or a new tax program. Okay? So looking at your clients that you've served over the years and seeing whether or not there's reason to alert them. And to do so, there's wonderful tools now available to you in the groups tab, the referrals tab. You can upload, listservs of thousands of phone numbers and send them the text. It's wonderful. So you can hit the ground running, rather than always looking at INR as a catcher's mitt, looking at INR as also an offensive machine that is addressing needs in a proactive way, slightly different lens. This takes you through admin side of things, all the different tabs, the sub-tabs under your admin tab. So when staff log in, they don't see, for instance, auto-response. You would have to give them special permission to see that. This is where those are described and how you can use them. So the first 5 or so pages of that are for the frontline responder. The latter half, or 8 or 9 pages of it, are more administrative. But there are things in the back half that a staff frontline responder might want to read up on at some point because they've been tasked maybe with monitoring or managing a program where it's push style messaging and they want to read up on push messaging. This is a reports description guide. This isn't where you access reports. This isn't the dashboard or anything about the dashboard. This is just what's in the reports when you go to the dashboard and run a report. So this will tell you, for instance, if you run the incomings report, what you're going to get in that report. Key reports are all users because that's a wonderful export of everybody, when they opted in, what zip code they used, who handled their case. It's just a nice sort of summary of information and a complete listserv of all your mobile numbers, everybody who ever contacts you, which is wonderful. And you might want to run that on a regular basis, right? There's manual reports where you can create a time frame that you want to run your report for. And there's also automated reports where you can set a frequency. So then that report just runs at the frequency you set it at. So I want my all users report on a weekly basis. Then every Monday morning, you've got an email from admin saying your report is ready. And you can click the link and it takes you right there and downloads it. So another key report is a summary report because that gives you your aggregate stats. Now you can log in and go to the home tab and go stats, home, sub-tab stats, and that will show you graphed out your traffic. So it'll tell you how many encounters you had, how many incomings, how many outgoings. So the sort of the most basic things that you want to have a snapshot of is there. Also under that home tab is, and as we do the new release, it's going to be more, there's going to be more features under that home tab. You can also go to home sub and you can look at, let's see here, just want to make sure I use the term properly. Status, I believe. No, status. Status. So this gives you the status of the people who are logged into your service, your queue. Tells when they last logged in. It measures using a heartbeat. So we're tracking their actions as they click through the application. And then this summary report, will give you more of the aggregate stats than that stats page does, as you can see. Single user report is super important to know about because what this does, guys, is if somebody texts you, this is a comprehensive record of that encounter. And it's just useful to know that if ever, you've got a need to append a report with the complete transcript, just run your single users report. Don't bother trying to copy, paste, and all of that stuff out of it. Just run your single user report. That runs, and then you've got that, and you can attach that XLS file to whatever you need to do. You can upload it into software, whatever. It'll be a comprehensive record of all activity with that phone number during the time frame that you run it. And then surveys and survey responses. That's another thing that is going to be important to be aware of, because that's your quality assurance data, or it's your encounter intake data. Like if you have an intake survey or you have a during encounter survey, all that is in the survey groups and survey responses. The data part. Staff logins. If you're monitoring when staff check in, when staff log out, that's that report. Encounters report is the other really important report, because this is the equivalent of your call report. This is going to give you all of the details. It's actually going to be a little bit more comprehensive than your call report. Typically, a call report doesn't necessarily have things like, well, it's not going to have number of outgoings and number of incomings. It may have the duration, probably does, these days they do. May have the responder. It might have the response time, how many rings it took, I don't know. This is how many seconds or minutes it took to respond to the person after they texted you. Start date and time surely has that. And then the keyword, what zip code did they use to opt in? So that encounters report is wonderful, and you're going to want to run that on a regular basis. Probably weekly, if not, you can run it monthly, whatever you like. You can also run monthly or weekly, and both. You can have multiple of the same report running at different frequencies. Single responder summary is another super useful report. The reason being is this is the metrics of the responder. This is all the data related to how they handled the support. So your single end user report is for the phone number, and and it's looking at all of the things that happen with that phone number. The single responder summary is all of the things that happen with that responder. What cases did they handle? What encounter IDs? What phone numbers? How many outgoings? How many right? So looking at the service from more of an administrative view, right? What kind of workflow are they handling? And getting an insight into that. So that single responder summary is wonderful. You've also got a all responder summary, which has some of the elements here that gives you in one Excel spreadsheet all your responders, how they're doing. And that might be a wonderful, might be something that you run as well, rather than just a single responder. Might be if you're really trying to look at what one responder has done or is doing, and you need to kind of look at it not just from the cases they handled, but also what they're doing on the application in all ways. Then you would run that single responder summary. The all responder summary you might run on a regular basis just to get an idea of what your team's doing. That's right there. Conversation is just an export of all conversations. Just going to be one long line of conversations, incomings, outgoings, as they happen. And if you're interested in kind of getting an idea of the flow, the content of conversations, rather than clicking through the UI, you can export conversations to an Excel, take it home for evening reading. Unroutables is if a phone number is unroutable. And that happens when you put a phone number into the service. This is when an unroutable pops up. Reason being is that your source of that mobile number may be inaccurate. it might be that that's not a mobile number that you uploaded. And so when it isn't a mobile number, well, we pop it. We tell you that this is not a mobile number and it's non-routable. That's carrier grade. So we're consulting directly with carrier when we determine an unroutable. And that is good to know because, well, you want to know. You want to know your accuracy. You want to know how many people, when you do outreach, how many of those numbers are legit. Okay, and then keyword creation guide. So have a look at this as well. This is the process we go through with getting messages. Getting keywords set up for you. So out of the box, you've got all your zip codes. Those are keywords. That's what somebody texts 2898211 to get into your INR queue. There might be other programs. There might be other services. There might be other ways you use text. And those text programs usually begin with a keyword. You have, part of your contract with us, access to unlimited use of keywords. So you could have many, many additional keywords associated to additional programs and additional queues that may not even be in your INR, your primary. Out of the box, we set you up with a programs queue, meaning that you've got your INR queue and then you've got a programs queue. We train you on your INR queue. Your programs queue, though, is going to be there for you to develop and build programs right away. You can put a tax program in there where it's push messaging. When somebody texts back to that, you tell them, hey, either call 211 or text your zip code because we don't monitor this queue, right? So you can use your programs queue as a way to send out information but not be on the hook to reply. This takes you through how you activate a new keyword through us. We assist you with it. And then the SMS listserv best practices. So this takes you through all of the things that we've learned along the way. Well, not all of them, but some of them. Strategies that are helpful with push messaging, building groups, creating groups that are sustainable. A lot of texting is about, yeah, we'll give you an option. We'll give you an option to send out everybody a message. And then you do that. And then you go, well, now what? Well, you want to send everybody a message again? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't know if everybody wants this one. Groups tab and the way in which we've set up the application, and the way in which we define the programs and services that are offered under the suite of services in TP and PreventionPays text, we have that understood that groups change, needs change, desires change. So the program and the services must fluctuate and evolve with those changing needs. And so group texting is exactly that, ad hoc groups, the ability to build groups, as many as you need, and reassemble who's in what group so that that big group can become many little subgroups or another big group that has a whole different group of phone numbers in it. So push style messaging, but with ad hoc grouping, which is crucial because you got to be able to evolve with the interests of your end user. We can even support taking a listserv and changing the keyword. So keeping the same group of people associated to it. It's just that now we've got a new keyword that's guiding that group and the texts that go back to them. The group and their needs haven't changed, but you guys decided that that keyword, you wanted to market something different. So a lot of flexibility with groupings and keywords and how you arrange them and group them. This document helps a little bit with understanding that better. And then the staff creation guide is going to take you through setting up a new staff profile or editing existing staff profiles. So this walks you through right from the first item on that. When you go to admin, subtab staff, the email box, what you put in there, short name, password, confirm password, so all that stuff. So as an administrator, you can start adding your own staff, managing your own staff, doing what you want. This document helps you understand the permissions as well, so that when you do create a new staff profile, you don't give them by accident something that you don't want them to have. Like reports tab. If you don't want a frontline responder running reports, then don't give them that tab when you set them up. This is why we also help you with your initial setup, because we want to make sure that we get it right, we don't make any mistakes, and we don't give people access to things they shouldn't have. This document will help you also do that. You can also monitor any profile simply by going to your staff roster in the application. Admin defaults to your staff roster. Shows you everybody that you work with in your organization. I get to see everybody that you work with and everybody I work with. This tells you also their heartbeat and whether they're currently logged in. If anybody ever leaves you, you can suspend them rather than, we don't delete. We use delete as little as possible. So suspend. And the suspend and all just means that if you have multiple queues and they have access to multiple queues, you could selectively suspend them in one queue but not in another queue, right? Suspending an all would be they're gone across the board. And then editing their profile. So that document that I was just walking you through takes you through the significance of each one of these. Okay. As well as editing a staff profile, existing staff profile. Okay, so so if you're interested, there are promotional documents that are open source that are available to any agency to use. You can take from others what they've done and rebrand it yours. We will give you access to high-resolution images so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you market. You can borrow from others, which is, really can be really helpful. And borrowing from others is, hey, we like the one about the old guy, or we like the one about the mother with the baby, or we like the one about the woman holding her head in her hand. Just let us know. We'll give you the high res, and you can rebrand it your own. You can put your own logo on it, whatever you want. All open source stuff. This gives you highlighted examples of programs as well as 211 text messaging, which is really, this document goes back to about 2011. It's evolved. It's newer, but it's been around for a while, and it tells you all the things that 898.211 is provisioned as and can do. Okay, so let's log in. I'll log out, log back in. Okay, so looking at the queue, we've got a couple phone numbers in here. 715 and then the 831, that's mine. I'm opted out right now because I did a test and then I texted stop. Opt-out is just status. It lets you know that they don't want to be texted right now, but that could change. They could opt back in by texting their zip code again, or you could opt them in. They could call you up and say, I texted stop by mistake. And then you can go, oh, okay, what's your mobile number? You can go, okay. Take the number, admin, fully opt in. And, you know, and what's your zip code, right? We'll pick the first one on the list. So then this is same, guys, for converting a caller to a text. If I want to convert a call to a text, I would go admin, fully opt in. What's going to happen is the same things that happen when that person texts their zip code to 898211. Just we're doing it for them. We're doing it based on their consent to do so. And with nonprofits, you can have verbal consent on the phone. They can tell you, yes, text me. Your end user privacy protected because we're reminding them that all they have to do is text stop to opt out. And most people know that now by heart, right? Or they know it by virtue of experiencing it with other services. Texting stop to opt out. Cancel, quit or unsubscribe is also acceptable words to use. But they have to be just that word alone, single message. But it can happen on an occasion by mistake. Somebody could text stop, rarely, but they could. Or they could think that they were maybe stopping something but not stopping the communication with you. It's just a situation that could arise. Therefore, you've got this remedy. And when you click fully opt-in, you get a little note up here. We added that client. So then we go back here to the Users tab. Now that's no longer opted out. It's in the queue. It's opted back in. And if you look here, app opt-in. So 54401 was down here. When I used it down here, I sent it from my phone. SMS source, darker blue. When I use the 54401 up here, I use the application. So the source is the app, and lighter blue. And then that's the greetings we've got so far for you guys. We're going to be swapping out those greetings with your live responses. So you'll need to decide what you want to do with your live responses. To get at that content or sample content is right here off the messages. So you can either choose one of these or you can use some version of one of these with something else. Entirely up to you. We just give you a few examples of what we've seen others do. If you have limited hours of operation, we recommend this one because you specify your hours of operation when they opt in, and then when you send the after hours message, they know, oh yes, that's why I'm getting this after hours message, because they said that in the opt-in message that they have limited hours. So when somebody opts in from the application, it's not the same. So we stick it in the queue as a pass, meaning it's not asking for help necessarily. So if you're converting a caller to a text, you need to go back to the queue and find that number. It'll be at the top, or you can do a search. And then you take it, and you open it. We were just talking on the phone. Let's continue. And then they can hang up the phone if they haven't already. And then you can be in conversation mode with that phone number, that person. So why would you use a convert caller to a texter? Same reason you might convert a texter to a caller. You're not communicating properly. That the communication isn't working for whatever reason. So, can I call you might be just as commonly used as can I text you. So if you ever are in a situation where you need to call the person, then it's the same thing. While you're on the phone, you're going to go, may I text you? What's your mobile number? Just to confirm. And then pop over to admin, put their number in, and add them to the queue. If you're converting to a call, you say, may I call you? And then they say yes. And then you say, may I call you with this number, this mobile number? Yeah, sure. You may make a note of it. Converting to call. Okay. Update your note. And now you call that phone number. They answer. You close the case. That's why it ended without referrals going out or information or additional conversational elements. Okay, so fully opt-in, partial opt-in. You can use partial opt-in as a way to market. So you can have a list of numbers that you aren't sure about. We think that they want information about tax help, but we're not sure. Nonprofits can send a single message to any number they want, and that message can invite that person to opt-in. It's referred to as double opt-in. And you could have a list of mobile numbers that a partner supplies you with. They are giving you some funding to do some outreach, and here's our mobile listserv. Well, have they consented to get text from you yet? No, they haven't. Okay, well, we can partially opt them in, meaning we can send them an invitation to opt in. If you do that kind of marketing, make sure that you express yourself properly in your invitation text. So announce yourself as 211. Make sure that they know that. Or if you're on behalf of another agency, make sure they know this is why they're getting a text from this agency, from you. So just be clear in your message. Where you add double responses or where you add the actual templates and the messages that are used is under double responses. So you can pop a new one in here. Hi, 211 here. Thought you might like to receive text from us about financial literacy. See if you qualify for free text. Now you can see the reason we talk about additional keywords. Right now you've got your referral automated keyword here, or you've got your zip codes. But for this type of outreach, you may want to use a different keyword. So when I'm happy with my double message, I just save it. And now I've got, when I go over here to the admin and I go partial opt-in, I can upload my list of numbers and then assign them that one. And then I can send all those 1,000 phone numbers or 5,000 phone numbers or whatever you've got that message. Looking at INR through a slightly different lens. So the opt-out, you don't normally need to use this, but you may. And the reason being is that sometimes somebody might text something other than stop, quit, unsubscribe. They might say something like, don't text me ever again. And if you get that message, well, then you would go admin, opt out, put the number in, opt out. Same thing happens if they texted stop. Client opted out, they get a final message. You can't text them anymore unless you opt them back in or they opt themselves back in. Block. This we reserve for admins because it's more severe. If you block a number, they can't opt back in. So you may have somebody who becomes irate. And based on your policies, we cannot serve this person. Therefore, you block a number. But here's a potential conundrum with blocking. People swap their mobile numbers sometimes, more in the last couple of years than ever before. So a blocked number might turn into somebody who doesn't know they're blocked and doesn't have any reason to be blocked. So use it sparingly, because that might change and you won't necessarily know that that changed unless that person tells you, hey, I'm trying to text you and I can't. And then you can go, okay, well, what's your mobile number? Search for it, find it in your queue. Go, oh, yeah, we blocked you. You're not selling? No, I'm not selling. I just ported my number over to AT&T or whatever. Oh, okay. Unblock. Unblock that number. So, but as you can see, like, block with a caveat. Auto responses. Auto responses are all the content that you have during your after hours, during your holidays, during all staff meeting days, whatever. This is where you can set up a message to go out for those types of events. And we're going to help you with your after hours messages if that's going to be something that you support. We're also we do as a courtesy all your holiday messaging in advance for the next year. So please use us as that resource. Michael supports all of that. So as you get underway and you get me your opt-in messages, provide also your auto response content for holidays and after hours. And CC Michael, because we'll work together to get that all laid out for you and added to the system. Canned responses, well, this is, we do give you content, sample content that you can borrow from, use right here. A lot of it. A lot of sample content here. I mean, pages and pages and pages. So I recommend you have a look at the canned message sample content. And here's some auto response samples. And then you decide what canned phrases you're going to use in the software. We give you introductions in progress, closing. Looks like you already added some stuff here though, because I don't recognize follow-up. So maybe you guys have already done some work in this area. It's great. Going to admin and canned responses is where you can edit all this stuff. So if I want to look at the follow-up messages that you guys have added, there we go. I can edit them, I can write over them, or I can deactivate them. I can also prioritize them, change their order, how they appear when I look at them when I'm having a conversation. So like, for instance, if my introductions, oops, I want to edit the title. I want to edit maybe one of the introductions. So if I say, oh, we're always using in order to best help you. We never use hi, thank you. You may want to turn off hi, thank you and just use in order. Or if you sometimes use hi, thank you, most of the time use hi in order, then you can go in order is first, because that's the one we use more. So we're going to prioritize them on top of hi, thank you. So this is where you do all that editing and changing of anything that you need to change about your canned phrases, happens, admin, canned phrases, canned responses. And then this is where we talked about the double responses, the invitations, the opt-in, and then the markers. And the markers, we give you a sample data marker. It's the basic errors, problem, need list. So when you are having a conversation with the client and you need to data mark them as a veteran, then you would need to add that data marker by going new, label veteran, no, and then you go pull down. You go save data marker. You can go new pull down option, active. Right. So then you can go active, and then now we've got veteran military status data marker. And so when we're responding to the client, we can go problem need, or we can go veteran military status, active duty. There we go. So now I can key off of that data marker. I can send content off of that data marker. This is why we talk a lot about data markers as being a significant tool in the software, because that becomes something that then you can key off of. It's something that you can find the client by. It's also something that you can send content by. So rather than just sending content based on the keyword, you can send content based on the data marker or note. I can add a note. If I add a note to 5 callers, I can then sort the queue by all those notes that I put to all those individuals. And then I could create a group and send them text. Data markers work the same. Group stat. So adding data markers here under markers, using them is during your conversations, your frontline responders, and then using them to message them or be part of a messaging program is grouping. Going to Groups tab, showing, new, sort by data marker, and I can say active, and then now I've got all my active duty showing up in the results, and then I can add all. Go military. And then now suddenly I've got a group, an ad hoc group, based on that data marker that we set for that profile. And I can edit this, I can put more, I can purge it, and put a whole new list of, see, So you can use Groups tab to be in the moment, grouping, and it's the most current roster of people who meet the criteria that are going to that group. I'll leave this here just so that you can see how it was set up and assembled. Okay. All right, so we've gone over, now I want to go over to reports. So reports, guys, are in three different categories, three primary categories. So when you look at your reports document and it tells you what is in each report, the moment you go to Reports tab, this is your dashboard where you run those reports. So I can go manual because I don't have a frequency in mind yet. I don't want to run these on a continuous day. I just want to run it one time for this amount of time. So I go new, and then I've got my options here. All those reports that we summarize in that document. So if I want to run a single user report for my phone number, 831-332-0296, and then I want to run it for how long? Well, I'm not sure. I think they've had a few encounters. So let's go back to January. So if anything happened in this amount of time with this 831, this report's now going to have that content. Everything that happened. Everything that transpired with that client. Up to the minute. I can also run an encounters report here. So this would be all of the encounters that happened in the time frame that I'm running it. They run sometime after midnight. The same day you add it, you get an email the moment it runs. That email has a link in it that's clickable. And then that takes you straight to that report. It's an Excel spreadsheet with all of the items that we talked about. There's automated reports. Same reports that are in your manual, but according to a frequency. So you wouldn't run a single user report on a regular basis, but you would run an encounters report on a regular basis. And you can run it yesterday, meaning daily, last week, meaning weekly, last month, monthly, last 6 months, or last year, or all of them. On one weekly, encounters weekly. So I create my report. Now, Monday morning, I'll get an email telling me your last week's encounters report is ready. Click it. I've got my report for the last week. All encounters that occurred over the last 7 days. If I want to run it monthly, I just select that same report, encounters, but I select my frequency as monthly. Then I'll make sure that I'm getting it weekly and monthly. Now it might become, might start duplicating data, right? So you're going to want to keep track of that. And if you pull your last week's report, that it's just going to have the encounters for the last week. If you pull your last month's report, it's going to have the encounters for the whole last month. And then you've got data export. Now, data export, you can set up an FTP, and we can secure transfer that report to that FTP. Some agencies like to have that data go to another place because they're doing something with it. Maybe they're uploading it into Domo or some other, reports graphing tool system software. Or they're just creating a duplicate universe for all their data, which is fine too. You can use our database and our dashboard, or you can FTP it. And this is where you set up the FTP.
Hi, Jonathan. Sorry to interrupt. I have to leave for another call, but thank you so much for this information.
Okay. Yeah. I was winding down anyway. Was that Amber?
Yes, that was Amber.
Okay, cool. So do you have any questions about any of this stuff? I mean, we've gone over a lot of things.
I do have two questions. One is when we start doing some testing, is there a way to delete those texts or data so they don't show up on the report?
No. What you can do is you can test though in your programs queue. If you don't want any of your cases, your test cases to show up in your INR queue, you can go to your programs queue and do testing.
Okay, and where's the program queue?
You'll have a little blue change button up here. Well, you'll have that by the end of the day. When you log in, there'll be a little change button up here, and then you can click over and change to your programs queue.
Okay. Okay.
And you'll have the same capacity there. You'll be able to put numbers into the service or text or opt in, and you can handle all of your, test texting in that environment.
Okay, great. And the documents that you showed earlier, do we have access to all of those documents other than the links that you emailed?
Yep. Yep. This link right here, this FTP, is available to you, and it's absolutely open. Everything that we put in here is open to everybody.
Great. Thank you. So, Jonathan, what do I need to get to you? Once you're ready to go live, what are you going to need from us before that?
Okay, so when we look at your info here, what we see is, like, you can go to home and you can go to info and you can see all your active zip codes, right? We're going to swap out that temporary message with your live message when you're ready to go live. And where you get sample content for your live messaging is opt-in messages. This gives you samples of what you might want, or what you decide you may want to use. You don't have to use one of these, but a lot do, just because it's easy to do. If you may want to change it slightly, you may want to use number 4, but go, oh, we call ours resource, instead of resource navigator, we use agent or 211 agent, or we use something else, some other term. So, you can provide us with, we want to use number 4, but with this instead of that.
Okay.
Or we want to use number 7, but we want to use the part that's on number 10 that says this. So mix and match. Whatever you decide, then you'll get to you'll send that to me. And I also ask that you send me, if you have limited hours of operation, your hours of operation and what auto response you want to use when it's after hours. And then we'll set your after hours messages up the same time we activate your live text. So we ask that you coincide whatever launch plans you have with the date you want to launch. And you would give me a date. You would say, okay, here are my opt-in messages that we want to use, and this is our launch date. And then we'll make sure to have all of your zip codes and your opt-in keywords ready with your new opt-in message on the date that you elect to go forward.
Okay. I know that I will have more questions later once we are actively testing and once we go live. But I think for now, it's a matter of understanding what you need from us and what we need to do before
Yeah,
going
and then when I talked, remember how I said auto-responses as well, if you're doing after hours or holiday messages, these are samples of those messages. So you don't have to invent anything there either. If you want to use one of these, just go ahead and say, hey, we want to use sample blah, blah, blah in the auto-responses.
Okay, great. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you guys today.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a recording.
Okay, great. Thanks.